All right, everyone, welcome back to the final episode of this season for the No Cap Zone. I am super excited about the conversation on this evening. I am Jason B. Allen, better known as Professor JBA. I am the host of Speak Black Man and also the moderator for the No Cap Zone, which is powered by educational entities. And of course, it is led by our Students for Equity group. Now, you guys already know what I'm going to ask. If you are viewing this live on Facebook or checking us out on YouTube, make sure that you like and share this conversation with community, with others to engage them in the conversation. Now, also, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and make sure that you subscribe to the EE YouTube channel. And here's why. We have a lot of exciting things that are coming up. Of course, on Mondays at 7:15 a.m., we have the I Win morning show. Now, we do have a couple of changes. So, Speak Black Man will be on Mondays at 7:15 p.m. So I'll be on in the mornings with I Win, and I'll be on in the evening with Speak Black Man on Mondays. And we have some exciting news about some upcoming podcasts that are coming to our EE family. So make sure you stay tuned with that. Now, students are on the move. If you missed Javon last night, Javon is the leader of Students for Equity. He spoke on a national panel for literacy, libraries, and learning, giving the perspective of students, how inequities are showing up, what students are saying they want. Students were very upfront about the dangers around cyberbullying and digital learning. So it was really, really amazing to see our student leaders, Javon and Mecca, in action on last evening. If this is your first time tuning in to the No Cap Zone, I just want to let you guys know that this is a space for youth and students to elevate their voices on issues around equity in their schools and, of course, in our society. So we are excited to continue their work on this evening. Now, if you, again, want to be connected to the Students for Equity group, you can reach out to them via email at studentsforequityinschools@gmail.com. Again, that email address is studentsforequity. It's the number 4 equityinschools@gmail.com. All right, that's how to get connected with the students. Now, we are excited about the conversation on today. We have an amazing guest, but before we even get into that, I do have the No Cap Zone news, making sure that you guys are informed about what's on the students' mind, what's happening. Now, I do want to, again, going ahead and make sure they are dropping that reminder. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel for educational entities. Share and like this conversation on tonight. Now, for the NCZ news, which is the No Cap Zone news, this month we are highlighting the National Parents Union call to action. This is in regards to supporting the child tax credit. Now, if you know someone who has a child, if you have a child, if you're a teacher and you are working with students, a youth director, anyone that is impacting the work or connection to families, you definitely want to get behind this and support this. So what I'm asking everyone to do as a part of the news highlight for this month, go to the nationalparentsunion.org, connect with our campaigns tab, and get active. It's time that we get the parent voices in spaces, especially around policy, that really help us to make change in our public schools. All right. Now, next up, the No Cap Zone news. 3 things, y'all, that I want to highlight. Actually, it's just 2. First and foremost, sending condolences out to people this month who are experiencing grief. We don't talk a lot about this in our culture, in our community, and we see so much death around us on social media, in the media. So we do want to acknowledge that if you do need support, reach out to your village. If you can't reach out to your inner circle, try to find someone who you know is credible in the community, a community activist, a community leader, a teacher, someone who you feel comfortable with going to, really getting support. There have been a lot of reports, alarming numbers of deaths of Black men in regards to suicide and gun violence this year. So we're going to get a little more into that in the conversation, but we're bringing that attention to you. And also, we're going to connect that conversation to Nas's latest album, King's Disease 3. So we got a good guest on, and we're going to be picking his brain about that. Now, those are all the highlights to get all of that information out of the way. We're going to go right ahead and get into episode 5, which features special guest Anthony Downer. Anthony is a part of the EE family. He is the host of the That Way podcast. So we're excited to hear what he has to say on tonight. Now, if you are not aware, episode 5 for the No Cap Zone is titled Student Success versus Student Achievement. Very interesting because we're closing out the year. A lot of people have a lot to ask and say around what is success and what is achievement? Who's defining these things? And so these are actually some of the questions we're going to be asking Brother Anthony as he comes on. I'm going to go ahead and go straight to it. Brother Anthony, welcome to the No Cap Zone on EE. Brother, how are you?
I'm good, family, and I apologize for my internet issues, but we're going to have a great conversation tonight. Excited to talk all things equity.
Yes, most definitely, man. Well, listen, I know you have technology has been acting up today. You know, it's raining in Atlanta, so it could be hit or miss, right? Listen, we want to get straight into the conversation. This episode is student success versus student achievement. And a lot of people were interested in that because it's like, well, why is achievement going against success? And it's a very interesting thing in public education. So let's help the audience out by starting out here. What should we meaning stakeholders, parents, students, even educators who are part of the system, most importantly, the taxpaying citizens, what should we expect from equity work that's being done in schools, whether they are public schools, charter schools, et cetera, so forth?
This is a great question. We're in a time when equity is under attack in our schools, whether that be equity policies, whether that be some of the things we're teaching in our classroom. But for our community, for our families, they need to know equity is an attempt to serve each student where they are. It's not an attempt to give one size fits all policy or solution to the issues that we're dealing in schools. It's quite literally to recognize who our students are and whose they are. And that means that if you have a school of 3,000, yes, you have to meet 3,000 students individually, and you have to have initiatives, you have to have plans to serve them and to meet with them where they are. If you're in a district that has any kind of efforts around equity policy, whether it be like me, I'm an equity coordinator, maybe you have an equity office, maybe they're talking about anti-racism or a synonym for equity, culturally responsive education, then there are certain things you should be seeing. Number one, you should be seeing that a community aspect to equity, that the school is not just inviting you and the district is not just inviting you to their buildings, but that there are intentional and substantial as well as consistent efforts to engage the community, to meet the families where they are, to meet them virtually, to meet them on their time, on the weekends, to really do better with that engagement. You should also see intentional efforts and strategies to engage students of color, or what we call people of the global minority, low-income students, students with disability, emergent bilingual and multilingual students. These are groups that have been historically underrepresented and historically underserved, and you should see intentional strategies around that. And then, of course, you should see efforts to deal with the consequences or the negative impact of COVID-19 on learning. And so there should be efforts around that. If you are in a district that purports to have equity and anti-racism, there is consistency and there is authenticity that you should be looking for when it comes to the classroom, the school level, and the district at large.
Okay, Brother Anthony. Now you know that was a great answer. I feel like that really hit it on the nail in regards to what parents need to nail down and be able to take back to their school districts. And again, not in a way to be like, hey, we coming in here to attack y'all, but in a way to be like, hey, okay, we're a little bit more knowledgeable about how this works. What's up? We need to do the right thing for kids. Now, I'm gonna put a pause right there because I want to come back to two things that you mentioned, especially in regards to meeting families where they are. But I know you had the questions that we're going over tonight, but you know me, I got some things that I want to add in. So I want to switch gears right quick and go to this. It's the holiday season. It's the last week of school. I'm a champion for this because I feel like the holiday season, especially at the end of the year, is a good time for parents and families to come together and celebrate their teachers after the first semester. So what are your top 5 things that families could get or families can work with their student on getting their teacher for the holidays? Top 5 things, or maybe 2 or 3 things. But we would love your
Oh,
top
this is
5 of things that teachers would be like, hey, this is an awesome holiday gift. See, that's on the spot. So you got to think about it and know that every teacher that comes across this the next couple of days is going to be like, so I got this because Anthony Downer said, and this is what teachers like. So help out the students and parents that are looking to get things for educators for the holiday season.
right. Yeah, that's a great question. We're being frank, right? We're having a frank conversation. Um, I don't think I taught for 4 years. I taught mostly ninth and 10th grade. I don't think good gifts are in the classroom. I'm just gonna be honest. Don't get me something that I can use in the classroom. Now, yes, there's some supplies you can get. You can help us with some paper and some pens and pencils, but all your gifts, every gift shouldn't be for use in the classroom. So, being real, I would like some gift cards. Teachers like gift cards. I don't drink coffee, but Starbucks is a great place. If you don't really know, you can never fail with Amazon gift
Okay.
cards. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I'm gonna say it. Give me some alcohol. Get some wine. I'm a Crown man. If we can meet up after school, outside the school somewhere, give me some Crown. I'm be honest. Your kids pass it. Get us some stuff. What would you like as an adult? Okay, get that for another adult, right?
That was a good
I had this
response.
one teacher, right? I'll be real. I had a one teacher that my mom built a good relationship with. I remember her getting her like a Bed Bath and Beyond basket, right? Like a care basket. They had a great relationship up until I graduated. I don't know if it was that one gift. I don't know if it was just the communication, but something, a gift set, a self care set. Teachers are tired. It's been a very tough semester and a series of tough semesters. So a self care, Bed Bath and Beyond, someone with some bubbles, you cannot go wrong there. Food. Teachers will always food. Come on, come on. One of the best gifts that I ever got. I don't know if you've seen the there's a website where you can make your own chip basket. You can kind of customize
Oh wow.
your own
Okay.
chip basket. I got a gift card to get buy that basket. Food. You can't go wrong with food. I'm listen. I eat, so you can't go wrong with the teacher that eats. And then if I had to, what was that? 3, 4. One more. Um, something. I think something that does help your student. In the classroom. If you know that your student likes a certain set of books or is interested in something, by gifting that to the classroom, again, I know I said no school supplies, but something that would help your teacher, your child's teacher, teach that child, that's a great gift. That's a great gift. And keep it consistent. If you buy it 1 year, go ahead and buy it for the rest of the years. Something that interests your student, gets them engaged, something that works for their learning. Go ahead and give that to us. Make our jobs a little easier. Shout out to the teachers, though. Absolutely.
Shout out to teachers, most definitely, man. That was super dope and very upfront, honest. Now, I'm not, advocating for kids to be coming on up into the schoolhouse with the bottle of Crown, right? But definitely be smart about having. I encourage teachers to live in the community with their families. I think that's something that is so needed. Like that sense of community is definitely missing, and we have to work harder to create that. But Anthony, shout out to you for dropping those dimes in regards to what teachers may want. So parents, students, we got a couple of things we're gonna be throwing out to help you guys with engaging with your teachers over the holiday season. Now, Anthony, with the first question, you really hit up what equity should look like. Now, I want to go here because you mentioned something in regards to meeting families where they are. And so, families, if you are watching, remember in the No Cap Zone news, our highlight for this month is the National Parents Union's call to action, our campaigns that are on our website. I want to ask you about what could be done to really set a new direction in regards to meeting families where they are. And I want to give you an example. One of the things that the students talked up is that, recently there have been a lot of young people who have been killed due to gun violence. And we immediately saw the community, go to these locations where the young people, were slain, where the incidents happened. And, going to public safety meetings, which these are, again, great things to do. People were going to a lot of places and, doing a lot of good things that would really help bring awareness to what's going on. But the one place where people weren't showing up was where the families were, or where the families are, and where the young people are. As someone who's doing this equity work, as a teacher, as someone who is advocating for a better connection in this area, what are some tips that you could give to families to help educators understand the relevance of meeting them where they are outside of a virtual meeting or, coffee and conversation in the principal's office?
Right. And frankly, that's what we do, right? When we have these issues, or even when we want to have a series of engagement, we use the schoolhouse, we use the district office. Those are the main locations. We ask parents to come and families to come to us. And number one, that is incredibly insensitive to the trauma that the schoolhouse, the brick and mortar, has caused families for generations, right? So if we know, I think that recent data is something like 70% of adults live within 20 miles of where they grew up, then a lot of adults are sending their kids to schools or school systems that they graduated from. And now that those former students are parents, they are carrying with them trauma of the inequities, of the experiences, the negative experiences that they had as students that now are preventing them from engaging. We also know that when you have a meeting or when you have something important at the schoolhouse, again, you are communicating that you have, that parent, family, you have to do more to engage with us. It is expected that you come to us. So a few things. Educators, we have to do more of knowing whose our students are. We have to physically get into the community, physically get into the complexes, the subdivisions from which our students come from. We must know their names, the names of these locations. We have to be familiar with where they are geographically. We have to get there physically. And we also have to use parts of the community outside the schoolhouse as regular meeting spaces. We have to meet our families halfway. In a lot of ways, we have to go further. No longer can we complain that X amount of teacher or parents or X amount of kind of parent are not showing up for parent meetings or events. We have to do the work to engage them in a number of ways. Yes, that means doing work after hours. That means doing these events on the weekends. And yes, that means being virtual. And yes, that means translating everything. And so when we talk about what schools need to do better when it comes to community and family members, number one, we should not be reaching out to families only after negative experiences. We shouldn't be communicating to parents and families only after their child gets a negative punishment. We should be communicating celebrations. We should be communicating good progress. We should be communicating good trouble and civil disobedience, right? We have to communicate to our families when good things are happening with their children. And number two, we have to get out of the schoolhouse. We have to get out of the district office. We have to get out of spaces that might be comfortable and familiar to educators and school leaders. And we have to get in spaces that are familiar and culture responsive for our families. And number three, we have to be varied and diverse in our communication. If you just hold a parent open house in one format, and yes, that's what a lot of our schools, even our low-income schools, do. They'll hold it at 11 a.m. on a Friday in person, and that's their open house for the semester of the year. No, there has to be continuous opportunities to engage with families on things like an open house. There should be many opportunities across the semester for families to plug in and plug out according to their convenience and their ability.
Brother, listen, I know we have a couple of people who are on, and these are nuggets again that are so impactful to helping us bridge the gap between parents, students, and educators. So, man, I appreciate that. And, I'm invested in the work of family engagement. So it's good to hear that someone who has been in the classroom now doing equity work understands what that means. So, our conversation is on student achievement versus student success. And yes, all of these things connect to that. Just follow us down the rabbit hole. I promise you it's going to be amazing. Anthony, I'm looking at the time and I know this is the 30-minute convo, but I got a couple of more questions I want to ask you. When we think about student achievement, student success, I want to go here and ask this question because I think that we get stuck with this. Who determines what achievement looks like for our students?
Yes, this is a great question. And it directly ties into my work as equity coordinator. When we talk about traditionally, when we talk about achievement, we're talking about the numbers, right? We're talking about test scores. We're talking about attendance. We're talking about academic performance in terms of grades. We're talking about behavior. And good achievement means that your test scores, your grades are high, your behavior is low. I want to trouble that a little bit, and even in my role, I trouble it because yes, we want our students to be able to achieve. Yes, we want them to show them outcomes and progress, but we have to stop using Eurocentric and white supremacist standards set by this very inequitable government in order to get there. We should not be just taking test scores, CCRPI scores. We should not just be taking numbers and quantitative data, especially when we're talking about Black and brown folks that have traditionally performed differently when it comes to success outside of quantitative data. Achievement and tying in the question around success. A good school is a school where families are engaged. The community, it's a community school, so it's a community model that is deeply embedded in the community in which it's situated, not separate from, and in which students feel a sense of belonging and they feel a sense of value and love. All those things that I just said cannot be measured by test scores. They can't be measured by grades. You can have high grades, and I've taught at a school that has some of the best grades, reading scores, blows schools out of the water in the rest of the state. And yet, if you asked about the experience of the average student, especially the average Black and brown student, the fact that they might respond negatively means that school is failing, because our number one mission as schools is not to get high scores, it's to produce students who are well, who are loved and taken care of, and are prepared to go out into the world. And so that achievement that we look at, that achievement has to be set not just by governments ran by white folks that have not been in the classroom or haven't been in the classroom since they were students. We have to set the standard at the community level. We have to imagine and reimagine achievement and success as defined by our students, our families, and so many other rights holders outside of these government leaders and school leaders. And so I would really like to pose and think about this from a community aspect. As a community member, as a radical, as an abolitionist, what should achievement and success look like? And when we build classrooms and schools in which our students can answer it as scholars, or we're gonna have different looking schools, or we're gonna have achievement and success off the charts in a different kind of way.
Man, listen, I appreciate that. Now, you know me, I want to switch it up just a little bit. Heavy conversation, but great information. Also want to throw, again, some things out here that are really, kind of cool. Now, too often we always hear the negative. We really don't hear the great things that our students are doing. I want to go here and just see if you can give us one of the funniest moments that you experience with your students in the classroom. I'm talking about America's Funniest Home Video funny moments. We all have had these moments with our students in the classroom, bloopers, things that just happened that were not planned that are just hilarious. I want the viewers and the audience to really get a chance to hear some of the great things that are actually happening in public school or charter school classrooms. So what is maybe one good story about a blooper or something that was a funny moment that you shared with your students in the classroom?
Wow, this is hard for me because I was that teacher that didn't take myself too seriously, right? Like I remember my first year dressing up, wearing my button down and tie and my khakis, and I'm 22, I'm new to the classroom. I gotta let them know I'm not somebody to be played with, and I'm not gonna take it, right? And I quickly learned, no, that's not the approach that you should take, right? Be yourself and show your joy and have fun, because my students for all my 4 years were sitting in 90-minute classes, and I wanted, when they got to my class, that to be a joyful experience. So I want to talk about, if I could go to Doug gets such a bad rap. Why? A lot because of it is outcomes, as as we just defined, when it comes to how the state defines success and achievement. But I had so much fun in the classroom, even amidst some of the chaos that happened last year with my students from Doug. One of the funniest things that happened, first of all, kids at Doug know how to roast. So if you're going to teach at Doug, number one, be secure in yourself, know yourself. And then be able to respond. That's the other thing. Be able to respond, right? It wasn't about roasting, but I do remember the kids were TikTokers. And one of the ways in which I got the students not to do TikToks in the hall, or not to do it when they weren't supposed to, was to do it in the classroom. And one of the funniest moments, I didn't just laugh, the kids laughed. That's why I'm pointing this out. So we all laughed, it wasn't just funny to me. Was we were doing this, they were doing there's a TikTok trend where you're doing a dance circle. And I jumped in, and I can dance a little bit, I think, but I can't do a lot of the dances today. And I tried the dance, and it was just so funny to watch, I think to watch them see their teacher be one of them, you know what I'm saying? And to attempt one of their trends. And I'm 28, I was 27 when I was in the classroom, but they don't see me as a 20-year-old, right? They see me as so much older. And I think in that moment, just to laugh, to kick it, to have fun was really powerful. I do have a video, I think, of that. I have some videos from in the classroom. I think I have a video of that. Another time I'll never forget. This was during first semester when we're still getting to know each other. And they did a round. If you've ever seen Wild 'N Out, if you've ever seen the show Wild 'N Out, and they do a rap, some in the classroom, and right, you just keep it going, and each person has to fill it in and say in the classroom. And if you miss it, then you're out and you can't keep going. And so I have a video of them doing a round of in the classroom, and I'm dying laughing behind the video because it was just so funny. The kids that could get it, the kids that got kicked out, it was just it was so fun and funny to watch them take this moment, right? And if you had walked in my class, if I had got observed at that moment, I can tie that to the standards. I taught social studies, come on. But I just appreciated watching these kids, so many of whom are traumatized, that have lost parents, have are going through these tough situations right after the pandemic. Mind you, last year was the first time in 2 full school years the APS students were in the building, and I just had such a great time getting to know them and watch them be kids. not having to grow up too fast. So yeah, that's some joyful moments in my from my classroom. I miss it sorely. I miss them kids. But I'm also romanticizing and thinking about all those joyful moments and not some of the negative ones. But I really hope they continue to have teachers that just allow them to be their weird, authentic, goofy ass selves during moments like that, randomly.
Man, that was super awesome, man. We don't get a chance to really hear stories like this. We oftentimes are in the midst of, what's going wrong with the schools and what's going on with the kids and what's happening. And I think what's often missed is that time to build relationships and really be intentional about connecting with students. I got one more question, and I'm a little hesitant because I actually really want to ask you, what are ways that we can actually build better relationships with our young people? And I think that I want to close us out in that direction because, quite frankly, a lot of young people are going to be going back home once schools are closed for the holiday season that's coming up. You mentioned trauma, you mentioned, the passing of some of the students, parents and guardians. These are real life things: gang violence, gun violence, homelessness for our students who are, moving from one home to the next for whatever reasons. What are some ways that we can better engage with this generation of young people? I think that would be the perfect way to close us out.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal question. And I oftentimes return to my classroom, not because I was an expert doing it all the time, but really I did things, and it was sometimes small things, and it worked. I was reading this article recently that I think was shared by a profound gentleman, if I'm not mistaken. Do Black men spend too much time with children in the classroom? And when I first read that, I was like, hold on, are we being accusatory? But in reading it, it was saying that the data suggests that Black coaches, right, Black staff members, even some of your non-teachers, some of your administrators are intervening on behalf of the students, but also the students come to our classrooms. I don't remember having lunch by myself in my classroom because there was always at least one student coming in. And I think that spoke to how you have to treat them like humans and you have to treat them individually. Part of it is just simply being yourself. When they see that they don't, there's this advice that for the first semester, you're not supposed to smile, you're not supposed to laugh as a teacher. That is some of the dumbest advice I have ever received as a teacher, because the students need to see humans. They're not being taught by robots or machines. They need to see you as a human. And when they realize, wait, we might listen to the same music, wait, we might watch some of the same shows on Netflix, they will gravitate towards you. There's also intentional practices that you can implement. The first day of any of my class, I did pronouns. And we used to, I used to fight to make sure that was a part of these early activities. We are going to learn about pronouns. And yes, some kids are going to snicker and giggle. But eventually, what I found that because I did the pronoun, we went ahead and did the lesson, even before asking folks, who's LGBTQ plus or who's trans, who's non-binary. Before even knowing that, I did pronouns. And I would have my trans and non-binary students come up to me and say, hey, Mr. Downer, no one has ever done that. And they found my room automatically before they had to do it, before they had to introduce themselves. I helped offload some of that responsibility and burden and automatically created a safe space. And those students, I still have relationships with them that other teachers have found hard to build simply by doing pronouns. I also built class government. So I would have my students, we're coming up with the rules together. We're coming up with the policies and procedures together. How are we going to turn in homework? What happens when someone doesn't turn in homework? What happens when the class is getting too loud and Mr. Downer has a talk? How are we going to go to the bathroom? These routines that happen every single day, by allowing students to, one, help build them, but two, help upload them or uphold them as democratic elected representatives, allow them to buy in and have ownership of the classroom and build relationships, again, not just with the teacher, but with each other, because they saw themselves as community members and neighbors and not just classmates and peers. We built friendships, allowing students to have fun. This model of sit and get all day long, all 90 minutes, is so traumatizing and negative. By allowing them to have engaging activities that get them out of their seats, allow them to differentiate and have choice and voice in the classroom, will allow your students to engage with you, to build a relationship with you. Yes, sometimes they're going to tell you when the lessons are boring, but guess what? They told you something. They use their voice to say something explicitly, and that speaks to a great relationship. So if you ever need help in this area, there's some things you can do, but also that changes every year. You can't do the same thing. What you did 1 year with a group of students has to change a little bit because the new students are coming in, new humans. The number one rule and expectation I would have of teachers is that you're making the effort to get to know your student some way, some form or fashion.
Man, that was free intellectual property that you just gave to the people. And hopefully when people go back and watch this, especially parents, they'll really know, wow, like this is what a teacher that understands equity, this is what a teacher looks like. This is what we are doing in and out of classrooms. And it's so important to make sure that students are in safe spaces where they can learn, interact with other people, and be able to make better decisions about life. That is overall success, in my opinion, to connect us back to the episode title. Now, to close us out, because I know we're about 10 minutes over, I do want to ask you your thoughts about, I don't know if you've heard the Nas album, King Disease 3. I feel like it's so timely because it's really speaking to a lot of the things specifically that we're seeing happening around mental health with Black men and also gun violence. So any thoughts on that album before we close out? If you haven't heard it, you got to check it out.
Yes, he's giving me some homework. I do got to finish the album. I did hear maybe one or two songs. It does take me a little while to digest albums, so I'm actually still on Kendrick's album.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I'm still on Kendrick's album. Kendrick is probably my favorite rapper. But bringing it back to Nas, I appreciate the vulnerability of Black men. I appreciate that we can use music as healing, as expression, and get real about some of the conversations that we grew up being told not to have. Right? So I like music that makes me think, and so I want to shout out to Nas. And just some of his powerful words have allowed me to internally think about what I need to heal from, what I need to process, what I need to return to from my childhood and early adulthood, that will prevent me passing on that trauma. And that's one of my biggest takeaways from the Nas album, is that we have to heal, but also in a world that tells us we're not, we are kings. In a world that tells us we're not, we are worthy. And so, yes, I got to do my homework and finish the album. But shout out to folks like King Kendrick and Nas for affirming Black men and Black people overall.
Man, that's super awesome. Listen, guys, Anthony is the host of the That Way podcast that will be returning for season 3 in January on the third Wednesdays at 7 p.m. The No Cap Zone is going to be coming back. It's going to be taking a little break as well as they get ready for their next season. But Speak Black Man will be moving to a new day and time. It will join the iWin Morning Show on Mondays. The iWin Morning Show is at 7:15 a.m. With JT the Brand Master and Dr. Danny and myself. And Speak Black Man will be at 7:15 p.m. that evening. So you'll get me in the morning and the evenings on Mondays, and then you'll have That Way on Wednesday. So make sure you stay connected to the Educational Entities YouTube page that is at the bottom. Anthony, brother, we appreciate you for being on this episode to close out the No Cap Zone. You were upfront, real personal, but really, really good nuggets for parents and other educators to really hear about how we can build better relationships with our young people. by simply being engaged and actually starting with listening. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. We are out, everybody. We will see you in January when the podcast for That Way returns, but I will see you on Monday mornings at 7:15 for the I Win Morning Show. Peace, everybody. Anthony.